Hello, so today on day one of my 7-day Maternal Mental Health Week special, I want to help you establish where you are right now. We can't rediscover yourself if we don't know where you are today. So what I find is that mothers often get to the bottom of their list of priorities really quickly after having their babies. And this focus shifts, pretty much once the baby is born, and it really often doesn't shift back. And the effects of this kind of slipping down to the bottom of the list of priorities is things like resentment, having low resilience to the challenges and stresses of motherhood, your reduced ability to cope, difficulty making decisions, and then the knock-on effect on sleep, difficulty losing or maintaining weight, and your hormones. And if you've been a long-time listener of this podcast, you might already be familiar with the concept of the Wheel of Motherhood when I talked about it back in season 4, episode 5. If you remember that and filled in the Wheel of Motherhood, then this is a really good time to revisit it, because that's exactly what we're doing in this episode. Because things will have changed in that time. And I think it's a really great idea to do this Wheel of Motherhood once or twice a year to check in with how things are going. So what is the Wheel of Motherhood? It's a way to establish your current baseline as you explore the areas in life that ideally need to be in balance to feel fulfilled and complete. It's a tool used in coaching that I have adapted for motherhood. So just picture a wheel with 8 spokes, with each segment between the spokes representing an area of life that I believe is really important to balance out as a mother. These are a combination of basic physiological needs as well as the needs to feel more like having a community, relationships, things like that. They feel optional, but they really are an important part of feeling like yourself again. So for a visual representation, if you have signed up to my accompanying download, then this includes the Wheel of Motherhood that you can fill in yourself. Or if you haven't yet done that, you can sign up on my website, tashadecruz.com/rediscover. Or you can just draw a circle yourself, divide it into 8, and then label each segment with the categories that I'm about to describe. And so the way it works is you rate each segment on a scale of 0 to 10, with 10 being, I'm doing amazing, this is no problem area of my life at all. On the wheel, 0 is the middle point of the wheel and 10 is the outer edge. And what you do is you place a dot for where you are on that scale for each segment and then join up the dots so that at the end you end up with a wobbly, skewed circle. Of course, in a perfect world, you would have a fairly smooth circle that wouldn't look particularly wobbly. But in reality, it's likely there is always going to be one or more area that scores lower, that needs working on. But it is a really good indication of the area that you most need to work on or you most need to focus on. So what are these segments? So number 1, sleep and rest. This is often the most neglected in motherhood, especially in those really early days. But weirdly, mums often find it just doesn't stop after, they've kind of got beyond that newborn stage. The baby still doesn't really sleep. And so your sleep suffers as well. Obviously, this does evolve over time, and you probably will get to a point where you are sleeping better or sleeping more. But are you sleeping better? And so the question that you need to ask for this segment is, what do I need to do to get the best rest I possibly can in the current situation I'm in? So the second segment is food. So this is where you look at replenishing lost nutrients from pregnancy and breastfeeding. Depletions are really common in motherhood, and I'm going to talk a lot more about that in a couple of days' time when I talk about food. But when it comes to food in this section here, I'm thinking about nutritious food and food that brings you joy as well. Another segment is movement. So this is where you're thinking about exercise, of course, but also just purposeful movement, just moving rather than staying still where you can and doing what you love. Next segment, me time. How much time do you get to yourself? And what can you squeeze in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes, an hour? I'm going to be talking a lot more about self-care in a couple of days' time as well, so hold that thought. But for now, where do you rate on that scale? And then community. This gives you maybe a sense of purpose. Who are you in the community that you live in? Do you have a community? Where are you in your immediate area, in your country, globally? What is your identity? And then relationships or romance and love. This is so quickly and easy neglected when you become a parent, because you do, just as you kind of become a different person, your status as a couple is often becomes very quickly redefined, and it's hard to bring it back into equilibrium. And you might need some external input to get help with this. And then family and friends. So again, relationships. What are the positive relationships in your life? Who are the people who lift you up? And What can you do to limit the people that drag you down? So where do you score on that segment there? And then finally, creativity and joy. So what brings you joy? What do you do on a regular basis to get into that flow of creativity? And I'm going to be talking about this towards the end of the week. Even if you don't consider yourself a creative person, when was the last time you were so focused on something you forgot about what's going on around you? Or what did you used to love doing as a child that you can lose yourself in? As I said, I'm going to go into this and a lot more later on in the week, but just worth thinking about how much time do you spend doing something that brings you joy just for the sake of it. Now, I recognize that there is an enormous privilege to be able to focus on more than just our basic physiological needs. And of course, getting all 8 of those spokes in balance is tricky and probably never possible. But feeling fulfilled and accomplished in all areas allows us the opportunity and space to make a difference in the wider world, whether that's politics, the climate, education. It might feel impossible to think about making a difference in those areas now, but with time and space, you can start looking beyond your immediate surroundings and your immediate family life and put some energy to good use. So now you know where you are, your baseline on the wheel of motherhood. So what do you do next? Well, the wheel should give you a good indicator of the area of your life that needs the most work. The one that scores the lowest probably needs the most attention for the next few weeks or months. And then once that one feels a bit more in balance, you can revisit the wheel and think, well, what's the next area I can work on? Now, I recommend filling in the wheel regularly. I think once a season is ideal, so that's about 4 times a year, because then you can see how things change as the seasons turn. As you know, I'm a huge fan of the seasons and matching your energy to the seasons as well. So things will change just naturally across the seasons of the year. And you will find a pattern emerging as well, that when you start putting your focus on one area, you naturally help another area. So for example, if you start focusing on sleep, you get more energy for movement, and then you get the impetus to plan healthier meals. Or if you join a sports team to get more movement in, you suddenly find that you have a community, you develop friendships, and you are able to express your creativity. And so you manage to notch up more than one segment by just changing one activity in your life. As I said, there will always be an area that needs more focus, and your priorities and circumstances change as your children grow as well. And the other thing to consider is that when you strengthen your muscle of prioritizing yourself and your needs, your standards will rise and your rating system, your baseline, will change. And that's a good thing, because it means you are getting better at demanding better conditions for the most important job of all, you as CEO of your family. So tomorrow I'm going to help you delve into the future. Now that we know where you are right now, we're going to look at where do you want to be as a mother? What feels important to your family? Like any good CEO, you need to have a clear sense of that direction and purpose. So I hope you'll join me tomorrow for the next important piece of the puzzle to rediscover yourself.